My name is James Williams Jr., and this is Comfort number 2. This will be my last video, hopefully, before I go to work, like in an hour. So, cultural intelligence. The reason why most people are racist is because of the lack of cultural intelligence. I know you're all looking at me and like, James, what the hell is cultural intelligence? Cultural intelligence, I'm going to show you what cultural intelligence is. Alright, so, as a person of multiculturalness, here's your cultural intelligence. Yeah, American Indians. Alright? The reason why I brought that up because I wasn't culturally intelligent until my friend who is a Korean, who's the son of a preacher, got me culturally intelligent. And I say that because when he first seen me, and I tell you guys the story before, I was working the hell out of my boat staff. I was 20 something years old, so this is like 20 something years ago. And hopefully he's doing fine. In Quan. Anyway, so yeah, forgive the shout out. So I'm sitting there working out. He shows up, and because he's a full Asian descent, I'm thinking, uh-oh, I done finally went too far with this kung fu stuff. I'm gonna have to fight this guy. So he comes up there, talking to me. He's like, he hadn't been noticing me work out and stuff. And I was like, okay, so what's gonna happen now? He's like, no, I'm not here for trouble. I just wanted to see who the hell you were. It's like, oh, okay. He's like, from where I was at, I thought you were Chinese. I was like, dude, I'm black. It's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, I know what color I am. He said, are you mixed? I said, yeah, I got some Native American in me. He said, well, Native Americans are Asian. And that's when the clusterfuck began. A friendship that I'm honestly, truly grateful for because he made me go back and remember stuff that I clearly forgot during school. And when I found out that Native Americans were actually Asian, it was a big slap in the face. I was like, okay. And I bring that up because a lot of places I've been, a lot of jobs I've had, um, they've given me some issues. Once outside of Burger King picking up one of my sisters, a white kid goes, "You're some kind of Indian, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know." And before that, when I worked at Kegler's, this white guy would not stop calling me chief. And it wasn't until I got into my 30s where I realized, maybe people just don't think I'm black. And then it became apparent that people really just don't think that I'm black. And there are days where I really just don't feel black. Where I want to get this bow and arrow and go shoot some shit. And I don't want to shoot people or animals. I want to shoot some targets and shit. But, in all honesty, culturally intelligence, you know, learning history, learning that not all white people um, brought slaves over here as a means to an end. A lot of what black history doesn't teach you in school is that a lot of bigger tribes all over Africa sold out the lowest tribes they could find. So a lot of your ancestors probably were chiefs and shit. And they just decided, hey, we can't beat the Zulu Nation. The Zulu Nation is gonna stomp us. So either we join them or we get destroyed. And in joining them, they wound up being in handcuffs and shackles and shipped over to America. All right, which they would breed with more people who would be considered slaves. And some of those slaves were white people. A lot of people they don't teach you when they teach you slavery in America. They teach you the hardships of blacks. They don't teach you the hardships of Asians. They don't teach you the hardships of Native Americans. Rather, they don't teach you the hardships of the white indentured servants who got suckered into coming over here because they had a pretty bad life in England and France and all these other places, and then they get over here thinking that they're gonna get that pot of gold and find out that they're in just as many chains and shackles as the slaves. They were also sold as well. House servants that weren't like black. It was like, okay, we got you here, so you're gonna work for 10 years here, and you're gonna get nothing but this room and this board. And if you're a chick, you might get raped a couple of times, because that's part of the deal that you didn't know with the underlying assignment. Cultural intelligence. Now everybody's all mad. All right, so if you watch my other video about like how you have bad white people, bad black people, bad Asian people in these groups, but when you go to school, if you're not in college, you won't understand how white people suckered white people into slavery. They called them indentured servants, and how some black people who think that all white people um, slaves will be shocked to find out that black plantation owners down in the South owned black slaves. And they made deals with white people, that they would have black slaves and there wouldn't be any white slaves. And it's just a big old clusterfuck. There were black slave owners, black overseers, all that shit. And they don't tell you this shit in school because they want to teach you how to become a racist. All right? They want to teach you that only white people owned slaves and there were no white slaves. And then when they finally got Sacagawea to get them over to California, how all of a sudden now they have indentured servants that are Asian. And then by the time the 40s and stuff come around and we have technology and we have the Model T car and all this other shit, they don't forget to tell you that how there were blacks, whites, and Asians working in assembly lines while the motherfuckers making all the money did nothing. And there was the gold rush and how many Asians got their head scalped and they tried to blame Native Americans for it. And how many white people killed a lot of Asian people, how many black people killed Asian people, how many Native Americans took Asians in because that was kind of their thing. How many Native Americans took blacks in so that they wouldn't get scalped by white people. Now, scalping technically was something Native Americans was accused of, but apparently may not have invented. I don't have 1,000% guarantee that that's true, but a lot of Native Americans, like, technically, we didn't really scalp people. Some of the bad Native Americans might have scalped people, but we didn't really scalp people. But scalping is where you take the base of their hair and then you peel it back with an axe or a knife or a tomahawk, and then you keep it. I'm pretty sure you probably killed that person before you scalped them, and if not, God help them. But, the thing is, being culturally intelligent will let you know that slavery is that thin line of gray that they teach you in school. And let me take you back to when I was in grade school, when we had to watch Roots. That's when my white friends really stopped wanting to do anything with me. Most of them were afraid that we would hate them because of shit that their ancestors may or may have not done. And here's the thing, we live in Virginia. And the first 13 colonies landed smack dead in Virginia. And for those who live in Virginia and Jamestown, you're living in the most historical city in Virginia. So that what I speak is as close to accurate as I can get without having to actually be there. Now, here's the thing. There were a lot of strong Native American tribes in Virginia. In fact, throughout the entire United States, there were a lot of Native American tribes until people started getting hunted down. Women started getting raped and keeping babies that were not pure blood. And that's how some of the colors in the tribes changed. And a lot of people who were white that thought that shit wasn't moral would escape and live with the tribes and become assimilated parts of the tribe. And their children would be the first of the half-breeds born. Now, here's the thing, the thing with assimilation and indoctrination and being culturally sound is kind of what leads to us all becoming racist. All right? Now, I'm not going to say my great-grandmother Ada was a racist. I will say that she had a lot of contempt for white people because she had once told me as a child, if our tribes would have actually listened to the ladies, America would be a different place. Your daddy's daddy wouldn't have been black, he would have been a man of the tribe because of the simple fact that if we would have swam under the water and drilled holes in the boat with our knives, gunpowder would be useless, and you can't fire a musket if you don't have the gunpowder in the gun. Or if the gunpowder in the gun is soaked sopping wet, there's nothing that they can do to conquer us. Unfortunately, tribal men and chiefs didn't view the women's voice as anything. Unlike if you go over to like China and Japan back in those days, the women weren't allowed to touch weapons. But if they pitched an idea and the shit worked, then it was used. Where like Shaolin monks and all this stuff would teach women how to defend themselves. And there was tribal warrior women in China. A lot of people don't believe it, but hey, do what you want. But there was a tribe of warrior women in China. Some of the most elite guards of the emperor were women because no one expects a pretty woman to cut your fucking throat. They just expect a woman to be a flower, but every rose has its thorn. So let's get culturally sound and culturally educated. The thing with not knowing things is why there's so many races in the world now because you just don't know. If you're a racist or a sexist, it's because you have no prior knowledge of what this person's race has gone through. Or you have the knowledge that you learn in school, but you haven't asked an elder. All right. My great grandmother told me, you know, they didn't have a whole lot of options in the school they went to, you know, because when they were old enough to go to school, it was separate but equal. And let's not forget, we're talking about people who were taken out of their reservation to go to education in America, where up until 1924, they didn't even have rights as citizens in the country that they used to rule. So, you know, it's kind of a fucked up thing. So when I say things, why am I always writing characters that are either half Native American or half Chinese? Because those are the closer things to my ethnicity and the closer things of history that I actually fucking know about. I can't write about something I don't know about. I can't really write a whole bunch about anybody from Africa because Kwanzaa is not an African holiday. That just probably blew everybody's mind who celebrate Kwanzaa. And here's the thing. When you've been rejected by almost all your sides, you pretty much go to the side that accepts you more, or that you can relate with more. And I relate more to my Native American side than my black side or my white side. And everybody's like, oh, you're just fucked up. Yeah, I am. But I'm honest enough to admit it. I have a dream catcher. I have a bow and arrow. Yeah. I had a dream catcher because I had been plagued with nightmares for quite some time. But prior to that, I had been plagued with the Witch Rider from the age of 7 to the age of 15. So like I said, you know, I also used to be able to dream walk. As a child, I could pick up the dream right where I left off. If I wanted to keep having that dream, I could do that. As I got older, by the time I got about 15, 16, I couldn't do that shit anymore. I can't do it now. But in my younger time, you know, and kids will always say to a child, oh, you're just over imagining, you know, you have a strong imagination. And sometimes your imagination can be deadly because some people, their imagination isn't their imagination, it's more or less them breaking the veil. So I'm going to end this culturally education to you, to your own devices. No, Google some of the stuff I said about slavery. Google some of the stuff I said about racism. Google things that you don't know so that you can know a little. Because most of the time what you get on Google is about 5% accurate. And if you are in an area where there's a good tribal relationship between you and whatever reservation is closest to you, if they're willing to let you come in and talk to the elders, then do that. I'm still trying to figure out a way to do that myself. I don't know how to reach out. And just for the record, I'm pretty sure Native Americans have computers now. So don't think that they're stupid, okay? Don't think that they don't have technology. Technology is probably going to be the downfall of all society. And when it's all over and done, we're going to need the old ways of Native Americans to survive. So you might want to pay attention because we got a president that has a devil's unicorn up his ass, and it won't be long before they have a bigger fight on who's going to push the goddamn button. I'm James Wimstein, Come Family number 2. I'm going to watch Days of Our Lives before I carry my ass to work. Peace in you.